Hi, I'm Kayanne, and I'm back with my travel journal that I've been really enjoying using. We've been taking a lot of little weekend trips, I guess, going to art fairs and setting up booths there. And I just decided to treat those as travel events because they're a little too much to fit in my regular journal, my daily journal. So the first thing I'm doing to get ready for the latest trip we took, which was to an art show in Dallas, Texas. And the first thing I'm doing is printing some of my photos and getting those ready. And this time I'm using right here a Canon Selfie Square, which prints these little square-shaped photos that kind of look like the old Polaroid photos. So that's kind of fun to use for these pages that I have a little more space on. I already printed out several things on my trip. I pulling out the things that I had kind of stuck in my ready to use. On the way back, I had printed some little photos on my HP sprocket and have those ready, and then some other memorabilia that I gathered and collected as well. So here we go. I'm getting gathered and I'm ready to just jump in and start on my pages. I do take a minute here with one of my ephemera scraps that I stamped these cameras onto because I thought those could be handy to use. Well, some of my ephemera I saved, like this is a booklet of the art show, so I'm finding maps and the page that tells about me and the logo and some of the scenery, some of the flowers and stuff that I'm pulling from this to use in my journal page. I also have this bigger map here that we were given that shows where the booths are, and I have another kind of less pretty, I guess, map as well, diagram. And so I'm figuring out what I want to use of all of those. I think this map, I love maps anyway, and this was very graphic, showed our location. Location's always a big deal at the art fair, and so kind of remembering where we're at, you kind of make friends with your neighbors too. I'm pulling out some washi. I pick just a few that I will use kind of through the pages. That kind of is one way to give unity to your, like that this is a separate trip. And I give that some unity by using similar washi tape throughout the pages, even though each spread has a little bit of a flavor of its own. So now I'm just trying to figure out what all I can fit on this page. I want the Dallas Artscape logo. I want the little thing that tells the dates of the event and the year. I also have the little information about my booth and the photo that went with that of my artwork. I have a picture of my booth. And then just some of that background scenery that I cut out of the brochure. These little thin strips are on the Selfie Square. There's a option to print like 3 small strips, which I did, and then cut apart and use those almost as like little washi blocks, except that they're my photos from the area. It was beautiful. I had taken videos to film of the area that I thought I was going to be really clever and include these videos, and somehow in the process of transferring them off my phone I lost them completely. So that's how technology often works for me. So sorry, no pretty scenery videos, but I did still have my photos to print out, so that's good. Okay, here I am sticking down these photos that I printed out, and they print onto sticker paper, so I can just stick them right into the book. I did notice that they don't stick super well on this craft paper. They stick probably good enough, but the corners tended to peel up a little bit, and so I ended up adding a little bit of washi tape onto those corners. So just keep that in mind if you're using one of these little printers on craft paper. Moving on to the next page, I'm getting some of that ephemera included. This chocolate bar was pigs and taters, which was interesting. I had bits of potato chips and bacon bits in it. So that was interesting. I also put in the business card of the artist that was right next to us, and her name is Julie Howard, and I would encourage you to look her up because her art is amazing. She does hyperrealism and creates her own pastels using natural ingredients like, blueberries and spinach and things like that, and very interesting and very beautiful work. Jumping back again to previous page and just adding some little bit more embellishments. I'm adding some little more washi tape bits and also those little cameras that I stamped. I'm sticking those in here too, as I thought they'd go well with the photos that I took. And then I'm ready to jump into the what will turn out to be the last page, the day that the last evening and then the day we went home. And I'm just adding my photos in from that. Going back to get even more photos, I'd taken a photo of the weather forecast for the weekend, and I also want to look up the logo for the restaurant we ate at a Dave & Buster's. It was the only place, it was a place we found open on late on a Sunday evening. And so I like to include logos and things like that because I think those will be interesting someday to see what things looked like. And even though these journals are mostly for my own pleasure in the here and now, I do think they'd be fun to look back on later in life, 10 years down the road or 20 years down the road. I don't know if anyone else will ever be interested in them or look at them, but if they did, I think it would be interesting to look back on and see what things were like, what restaurants there were, what logos look like, because I enjoyed looking back at the ads in old magazines and seeing how things have changed. I used these journal blocks. I used some like Recollections or Paper Studio ones, but I also used these ones with the florals on it by Marimekko. I'm not sure if that's how you say it, but I got a box of these label stickers on Amazon and have had a lot of fun using them, and they make really great journal blocks. I think they're intended to be labels for, packages or whatever, but they make great journaling blocks in my journals, and so they seem like the perfect thing to use on these pages. The craft paper works fine to write on, but I just think it helps it stand out a little bit more, to kind of gives it like equal ground to the photos. I'm just going back through now with some embellishments and stickers to just kind of jazz things up a little bit, I guess, and fill in a few of those little stray spaces. I've got some flower stickers to put on here. And because I don't have a whole lot to write about, we were mainly just sitting at a booth the whole time. So this is kind of a way to fill in those spaces. I can look at the pictures and remember most of the things I want to remember. The first night, our booth had collapsed under super heavy rain, so I put this little Hello Adventure sticker on there because we just kind of laugh, when these things happen, which are just a hazard of doing the art shows. But it's like, yep, here we are again. And, we worked hard and got it all pulled together, and we're ready for the show by time it opens. So felt pretty good about that. On the way home, we stopped in Oklahoma City and went to a art store called Porch Porch Art Supply, and it was a really great art store, and I spent a good amount of time shopping around in there. Got several things. Just enjoyed looking and seeing everything. It's so much better to see the supplies in person and buy in person than to shop online, which is what I usually have to do. So that was a fun treat on the way home, and actually one of the highlights of the trip. So now I'm finally ready to go back into all these little labels I put in and do my journaling. I don't have a ton to journal. It's mainly more like captions for the photos, but I do like to write at least a little bit. The pictures are pretty self-explanatory, but it's just nice to have some of the words in there as well. I'm just using an ordinary pen to do my journaling. I do kind of choose the size according to how much journaling I want to do, since I'm journaling on these little, fairly small little journaling blocks that I allowed myself. I am using kind of a finer point pen, but I also sometimes have a bold pen if I, don't have so much to write and want to take up more space. So other than that, I don't worry too much about it. If I think I'm going to go back and watercolor, then I want to be sure and use a waterproof pen. I usually use like a Pigma Micron pen, but in this case, I don't plan on using any water on top, so I don't need to worry about that. I can just use a regular ballpoint gel pen, whatever my favorite pen of the moment is. And I also often just use black. Once in a while I use a color on a page, and that's kind of fun to do for variety. But mostly I kind of keep it simple and just use a plain old black pen to do my journaling. I've pulled out this Imaginarium sticker book, which is really cool, but I don't always remember to use it because it doesn't fit with where my other sticker books go. But I did find some kind of little space filler embellishments. I don't like to leave a lot of space blank, so I kind of fill things up, and this time was no exception. I found these little bits to fill in the empty spot. Finally, I'm adding a tab. I used a tab punch, not quite as it's intended, but it works just fine. I just glue the two halves together, and I've created a tab for all the trips so far in this journal. So there's how it's looking, and I had a lot of fun working on this. Thanks for joining me. And now I'm just taking one last look through the pages that we just finished. So I think that's recorded the trip well. Feels good to have that done. I really like how this book is shaping up, and I appreciate you all following along on this project. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.